maintained the first position for 13 out of the previous 15 months, except for the month of April and November last year, when Bharat had slipped to second place. Now, global tire giants Michelin, Bridgestone and Goodyear, along with potential investors Yokohama and Birla Tyres, are set to invest around 3,000 crore rupees in Bharat's manufacturing sector under a government scheme linking imports to local investment. This initiative aimed at boosting domestic production following the centre's import restrictions. Bharat has witnessed a significant surge in monthly real-time payments, which have increased to 13.3 billion transactions from 2.6 billion transactions in just a span of 3 years. Now, according to a study, monthly instant payments have jumped 4 times in the last 3 years. The Ministry of Railways noted on Wednesday that the Indian Railways has registered an impressive growth in track renewal, with a 13.8% increase in financial year 23-24 in comparison to the previous year. And buoyed by the government's policy, the Indian automotive and ancillary sector is likely to double its size to rupees 15 lakh crore, providing employment to over 19 million people. So, while Bharat continues to go on the rise, there is also a rise in the political heat, ladies and gentlemen, with a buoyant opposition wanting to corner the government, which continues to remain confident that it will continue on its path of that dream for a Viksit Bharat. Now remember, last year, the Adhinams of Tamil Nadu came into limelight yet again because it was they who handed over the Sengol to Prime Minister Narendra Modi for being placed next to the Speaker's podium at the new Parliament House that was inaugurated in May 2023. Now, if we go back into history, the Sengol tradition was never a symbol of power. It symbolized dharma over power. Just law, that's what it is, just governance. It became a symbol of the exchange of royal power during the 5th century reign of the Cholas of Tanjavur in Tamil Nadu, transfer of power, but you continue to rule justly in accordance with the law that governs the land. Now, they established a massive kingdom after defeating the Pallavas and the Pandyas. The Rajguru or the court priest would use it as a symbol to notify not just the transfer of power from one Chola king to the other, but also the responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. A ritual that was associated with it to inform the kings that they have received the authority from a higher authority in the heavens through the sacred Sengol. Now, this is not restricted only to the south of Bharat. Samudragupta and all across India, the Sengol or the Rajdand has been prevalent in its use. Closer to Bharat's formation and soon after partition, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru accepted the Sengol around 10:45 p.m. on the 14th of August 1947 through the Adhinam of Tamil Nadu. It was a sign of the shift of power from the Britishers to the people of our country. Sengol is in the news yet again, with Samajwadi Party MP RK Chaudhary stirring a row after demanding that the Sengol, a historic scepter, the Rajdand, calling it Raja Ka Danda, it should be replaced. And it should be a small copy of the Samvidhan or a motif of the Samvidhan that should be kept there in the Lok Sabha. And he's written regarding the same, he says, to the Speaker and also to the other responsible authorities. And this is obviously very clearly has the BJP, the NDA allies fuming, the BJP accusing the Samajwadi Party of disrespecting India and Tamil culture. The BJP also asking why did Nehru accept it if the DMK, and whether or not DMK has accepted this insult. So it's like a quid pro quo within the India alliance, ladies and gentlemen. While everybody has kept quiet on the Kallai Hooch tragedy that's claimed 61 and still counting, the DMK so far has kept quiet on what Mr. RK Chaudhary has said.
सिंगोल प्रतीक है राजदंड का और संविधान प्रतीक है लोकतंत्र का। तो अगर रखना ही है तो सिंगोल हटा के संदर्भ भवन से वहां संविधान की एक मोटी प्रति रख देना चाहिए।
मैंने क्या कहा, जब प्रधानमंत्री जी ही प्रणाम करना भूल गए तो इसका मतलब उनकी भी इच्छा कुछ और होगी।
Scepter is the identity of monarchy only. Even this scepter which they had carried to the parliament was presented by the British monarch to Nehru.
हटाइए या ना हटाइए, संविधान की एक बड़ी प्रति लगाइए।
ये वही मानसिकता है जिसने सेंगोल को कई वर्षों तक वॉकिंग स्टिक बनाकर रख दिया था। आज जब उसे सही सम्मान और स्थान मिला है तो समाजवादी पार्टी जो रामचरितमानस का भी विरोध करती है, आज वो सेंगोल पर भी अपमानजनक टिप्पणियां कर रही है।
It is the silly politics played by BJP. They're trying to woo the sentiments of India, which they want. Their narrative.
Well, I stand corrected there. The DMK has responded to contrasting reactions. One, Mr. Elangovan coming out and saying it is a symbol of monarchy. Now the Tamil people have to decide what they should do. But Mr. Dayanidhi Maran sidestepping it, putting the onus back onto the BJP, saying you created the narrative. Don't try and drag us into this one. Joining us now is Mr. RK Chaudhary, Samajwadi Party MP who demanded replacing of the Sengol with a motive of the Constitution. RK Chaudhary जी नमस्ते. Sengol के बारे में आपके जो विचार है उसकी वजह से एक बड़ा पॉलिटिकल डिबेट शुरू हो गया है. आप क्या कहेंगे?
मतलब सेंगोल उस समय तैयार किया जाएगा था जब देश आज़ाद होने को था और मकसद था इस देश के पुरोहित लोगों की संख्या काफ़ी थी. उन्होंने सलाह दिया कि ट्रांसफ़र ऑफ पावर के समय कोई ऐसा चीज़ प्रेजेंट किया जाए जो उस समय के लॉर्ड माउंटबेटन हैंड ओवर कराएं सत्ता को यहाँ के पीएम को, प्रधानमंत्री को. तो तैयार किया गया सेंगोल और सेंगोल को लॉर्ड माउंटबेटन ने दे दिया इनके हाथों में. पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू के हाथों में प्रधानमंत्री थे. पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने इसको ससम्मान सेंगोल को लिया और उसे इलाहाबाद के संकलन में रखवा दिया. मामला शांत हो गया, काफ़ी आदर हुआ उसका. अब इस समय सरकार बीजेपी की है. इन्होंने सेंगोल को वहाँ से हटाया, लाके संसद भवन रख दिया. अब संसद भवन लोकतंत्र का मंदिर है और यहाँ आवश्यकता है संविधान की. देश संविधान चलेगा, एक प्रक्रिया चलेगा. तो हमने खाली इतना कहा कि राजा रजवाड़ों के टाइम पे सेंगोल की अहमियत थी. आज वो पुरानी बातें हो गई, हम उसका सम्मान करते हैं. लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री माननीय श्री पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने उस सेंगोल को ले जाके रख दिया इलाहाबाद के संग्रहालय में. सेंगोल का मतलब होता है राजदंड. राजदंड मानते होता है राजा की छड़ी. उसका
राजा की छड़ी नहीं है आरके चौधरी जी. उसका वो राजा छड़ी लेके चलता नहीं है. वो राजा के लिए ये रिमाइंडर है, इस बात का प्रतीक है कि वो न्याय के तौर पर और न्यायिक तौर पर जस्ट होकर प्रजा के हित में अपना काम करे, प्रजा का सेवक बनकर काम करे और धर्म की हमेशा रक्षा करे. धर्म यानी कि राइटियसनेस, जो सही है उसका, जिससे कि समाज सही रहे. तो इधर इसका अगर ये संसद में है तो उससे क्या दिक्कत है?
नहीं, ये इसकी अस्पताल भाई अगर न्याय प्रतीक है, नहीं अगर आज भी है तो देश के सुनिए.
हाँ जी,
सुनिए.
हाँ सुन रहा हूँ.
अब यही मैंने कहा था कि सवाल का जवाब मिलेगा.
हाँ, प्रश्न पूरा किया मैंने. अब आप जी हाँ बोलिए.
सवाल का जवाब तो मिलेगा.
हाँ बोलिए.
सवाल ये प्रश्न नहीं है. हाँ. तो आपकी थीम है.
थीम नहीं है
ये
सेमाइकोल राजदंड समुद्रगुप्त के समय से इसको इसी का प्रतीक माना जा रहा है.
अगर वो न्याय प्रतीक है
हाँ,
तो देश की अदालतों में होना चाहिए.
अदालतों में क्यों? अदालतों में तो न्याय किया जाएगा अगर कोई वहां अदालत जाएगा. लेकिन जो देश के लिए पॉलिसी बना रहा है उसको प्रजा का हित, समाज का हित सबसे आगे रखना है. और जब वो वहां बैठा है तो इसीलिए उसे संसद में रखा जाएगा. राजा के हाथ में उस वक्त दिया जाता था. अब प्रतीक देश के चुने हुए सरकार के सामने है कि हमेशा सेंगोल को देखे और न्याय करे, सही काम करे. इसमें क्या आपत्ति है आपको?
आप उसको अलग से बताओगे आप उसे ना उसका महत्व था
नहीं
जब यहाँ राजा महाराजा थे.
नहीं, महत्व तो हमेशा रहेगा. प्रतीक है वो तो सिंबल है ना.
सिंबल तो है,
सिंबल है,
उसका सम्मान करते हैं.
तो दीपावली में फिर आज तो आप ये कहेंगे फिर दीपावली में दिए मत जलाइए. आप कहेंगे अब तो लाइट बल्ब आ गया, उस वक्त इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं थी, दिए जलाते थे, अब दीपावली में दिए मत जलाइए. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना. एक प्रतीक है, एक सभ्यता है, एक संस्कृति है और एक परंपरा है जिसको आप आगे लेकर चलते हैं. तो उसी परंपरा को आगे लेकर चला जा रहा है. इसका अगर ये अगर संसद में रहेगा तो आपको क्या दिक्कत है? मैं आपसे बस ये प्रश्न पूछना चाहता हूं.
भाई रखा ही गलत गया. भाई उसकी सही जगह थी, उसकी सही जगह थी।
उसकी सही जगह कहाँ थी ये आप कैसे डिसाइड कर सकते हैं? आप कौन, आपको क्या अधिकार है ये डिसाइड करने का? और आप जो डिसाइड करेंगे वही होगा, ऐसा तो नहीं है ना। जो परंपराएं हैं हमारी उसको भूल जाएं, उसको छोड़ दें, तो दीपावली में दिए ना जलाएं। मैं पूछ रहा हूं आपसे,
अब वो परंपरा नहीं चलेगी।
क्यों नहीं चलेगी?
महाराजा,
तो राजा महाराजा भी दिवाली
संघर्ष
मनाते
किया।
थे, राजा महाराजा भी दान करते थे,
अब
राजा
भारत में
महाराजा भी
लोकतंत्र
पूजा
है।
पाठ करते थे, तो अब हम वो सब छोड़ दें? जब पंडित नेहरू ने रखा था तब क्या दिक्कत थी? तब तो किसी ने प्रश्न नहीं पूछा।
नहीं, पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने उसे बहुत सही स्थान रख दिया था।
सही स्थान यानी उसका अजायब घर यानी म्यूजियम है।
सेंगोल का स्थान संसद
सेंगोल
भवन
का
नहीं है।
सही स्थान अजायब घर है। सेंगोल का सही स्थान संसद नहीं है। आरके चौधरी जी, ये आप कह रहे हैं।
सवाल कुछ भी पूछे,
क्या
मेरा एक वर्जन है।
देखिए प्रश्न में
मेरी सोच है।
आपका
मैं बोलूंगा वही,
आपकी जो सोच है वो
सेंगोल
कहती
का
है कि हमारी
स्थान
सारी परंपराओं को त्याग
संसद
दें।
भवन नहीं है, बस
हमारी
नहीं है।
सभ्यता जो हमको सिखाती है, जो हमको धर्म बताती है, पुरुषार्थ की बात करती है, वो सब छोड़ दें। RK Chaudhary ji, dhanyawad. Let's take this forward because we're running around in circles with Mr. Chaudhary. He's decided, he's written a letter. CR Keshavan, national spokesperson of the BJP with us, George Korean, political analyst with us, Dr. Anand Ranganathan with us, and America V. Narayanan with us. Namaste, Jai Hind to all our guests. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Keshavan, how would you respond to Mr. Chaudhary? Raja, it's not a monarchy anymore. It's a democracy. That's why the Sengol should not be there in Parliament.
You had a very good informed introduction, Anand, but unfortunately the uninformed ignoramus that Mr. Chaudhary is, look at how he began. He said there were a lot of priests in India and they decided to give the Sengol. I mean, can anybody be more superficial than this? Today, Mr. RK Chaudhary not only insulted the Adinams, which are a traditional Shaivite mutt, he insulted the heads of the Adinams who belong to backward class communities, and he also insulted the millions of Shaivite followers of Lord Shiva. But also, you please note the timing, Anand. This was done when there was a joint session of Parliament, and now the Sengol has been given its due primacy in Parliament, and it's taken in a ceremonial procession. By attacking the Sengol today, he has undermined the sanctity of Parliament and the dignity of the office of the Rashtrapati. But what better do you expect from the SP? These were the people who are, who basically scoffed and mocked at Ram Chitra Manas. There was a SP leader who said, Hindu ek dhoka hai. Hindu religion is a fraud. And you expect these people to respect the Sengol? See what, and the problem I'll tell you is with the dynastic monarchs, SP, RJD, Congress.
No, but Mr. Elangovan also believes it's a symbol of monarchy.
Yeah, because DMK is a dynastic monarch too. Let me complete. See, this is a symbol of justice. This is not a symbol of power. Today you saw Mr. Akhilesh Yadav. Look at the statement he made. Look at the attitude of these dynastic monarchs. He got his MP from Faizabad and Avadesh Prasad. And he says, Raja Ayodhya. Look at this parochial mindset, and this is what they're reflecting on the Sengol, because these people, not only they don't understand the parampara culture and ethos, they attack it at every point, which is why they boycotted this installation of the Sengol and inauguration of the new parliament. So this is just unacceptable, and I think the India Alliance, there's no point in asking an explanation or an apology, because this is the DNA. The DNA is anti-Bharat, the DNA is anti-parampara, DNA is anti-culture. And I think this man, if he has any shred of shame, should apologize. And why is Mr. Akhilesh Yadav not taking action? Akhilesh Yadav is a dynastic monarch who has 5 MPs from his family.
Akhilesh Yadav said that even the Prime Minister forgot the Sengol when he took oath. So perhaps the Prime Minister himself does not want the Sengol there anymore, is what his comment was.
The Congress party disrespected, dishonored and demeaned the Sengol by casting it away as a walking stick. It was the Prime Minister who brought it back, restored its respect and glory and gave it primacy. That is because he has an understanding of our parampara and culture, which these ignoramus people don't have. And I'll tell you this, as long as they don't respect our culture, reduce numbers, completely decimated numbers, they'll always be rejected by our people.
America Narayanan, namaskaram, your response.
Vanakkam.
Vanakkam.
I didn't understand what the first portion that you had with the Member of Parliament, because I thought it's an English channel, but everything was in Hindi. So leaving that aside, I am not going to respond to what you had talked to him, because I didn't understand. But my friend Keshavan, I guess, has brought in the real color where he still talks about caste and religion. The problem is they have been thrown out because they have been talking about the caste and religion. We ought to be really talking about, that's why they lost. The 400 people showed them the door. It's not 400, it's a minority government of the area that's being run. They still are using the old worn-out plate to try to talk about
He didn't interrupt you.
Please don't interrupt.
He didn't interrupt you. Let him complete and please respond after that. Yes, Mr. Narayan.
So it's a worn-out, thrown thing. The real question is, if it does, and I believe in the past it did symbolize a proper rule, and it's only a symbolic. Now, the Modi ji is good in symbolism. He keeps the symbol, but does not practice what it symbolizes. When we talk about the real rule, the rule for all the people of the country, he continues to be, I thought he would have learned a lesson, and his spokespersons, persons like Keshavan would have learned a lesson, that people don't want this grandiose symbolism, but real democracy. The people's rule, the constitutional rule. When Mr. Shashi Tharoor talked about and gave him the constitution, and people, the speaker who is supposed to uphold the constitution opposes this. Is this the kind of start that you want? And is this what we need to be talking about? We ought to be really talking about, is the parliament being
Please let me know when you're willing to
for the people?
Okay.
Unfortunately, more symbolism and talking on wasting the public's time and not following what the symbol means.
Right.
The constitution as well as the Sengol.
Right. Okay. C.R. Keshavan, before you respond, I just wanted to highlight something. We have given Punjab a Dalit Sikh as Chief Minister. We have a Dalit as our party president. We have nominated a Dalit as the pro tem speaker. Yet we do not talk caste. Jiski jitni sankhya bhari, yet we do not talk caste. We gave this country 2 years of emergency from June 1975 to March 1977, yet we respect the Samvidhan. We put the entire opposition in jail and then altered the DNA of our very constitution and its own preamble. Yet we are champions of the Samvidhan. Classic Gobal, sir. Fantastic. Yes, C.R. Keshavan, respond.
I'll give a quick rebuttal.
Can I respond to you?
First quick rebuttal. American Narayanan ji, I don't know which Lala land he's living in. As we speak, Mr. Modi ji is the Prime Minister, and he's the first Indian, born after independent India to be the Prime Minister for the third time. Point number one. Who raked up the Sengol? It was not the BJP. It was an SP MP. I think Mr. Narayanan should have spoken about Mr. Chaudhary. He failed to do that. He's blindly attacking the Congress. Two. Third part, I wish a DMK spokesperson was here. These people talk about Sangam literature, Silapadigaram and Kannagi's tale talk so much about the sacred scepter and the Sengol. And the Tirukural, which Modi ji has taken all over the world and translated into many languages, there is a separate chapter on Semmai. I think Mr. Chaudhary, the uncultured ignoramus, should understand that it comes from the word Semmai, righteousness. And Danda is what the dynastic monarchies beat up their MPs with. And they are all sycophants, and these people have the nerve to talk about Danda. So I think, let us be very clear. On one side, you have the Prime Minister who has restored the parampara and culture and has given due respect to, the Sengol and the Tamil culture. On the other side, you have the India Alliance who, talk about giving Mysore Park to Brother Stalin, but never even have a word to ask about Kallakurchi. That is the reality.
Can I come in for a second, please?
Anand Ranganathan, Mr. Narayanan, I'll come back to you. George Kurin and Anand Ranganathan have not yet spoken. Yes, Dr. Ranganathan. Then I'll come back to you, sir. Yeah.
Good evening, Anand, and good evening to my fellow panelists. There are 5 issues here, and let me delve into them briefly one by one. Look, one, it is a matter of great pride as a Tamilian as well as an Indian that the Sengol is installed in our new parliament. It is a symbol of power and justice and Rajdharm, and the hope that any transition would be as imbibed in the great virtues of our ancient civilization. That this ancient civilization is a Hindu civilization should not be seen as a matter of shame or regret, but instead as a matter of pride. Our overarching philosophy is the Indian philosophy, which is the Hindu philosophy, and Hindu philosophy is not religious philosophy. Why do people have objection to this is beyond me. Number 2, I am frankly shocked at the ignorance of history at display by the Samajwadi party. Nehru was not only handed the Sengol, he was smeared with vibhuti as well. And both he and the president entered the parliament after a Hindu ceremony that involved chanting of mantras. As for it not being a symbol of democracy but of royalty, well, that's a preposterous argument, because what adorns our tricolour in the middle? The chakra of King Ashoka. 3. And as for it not being secular enough, that again is preposterous, because what drawing adorns the pages of Constitution of India, Anand? It is the Rama and Lakshmana with goddess Sita returning to Ayodhya.
Yes.
Our Supreme Court's motto is Yato Dharmastato Jaya. Where there is dharma, there is victory. A statement uttered by Gandhari to Duryodhana in the Hindu scripture Mahabharata. So are you now going to dispense with our flag, burn our constitution, bulldoze our Supreme Court? Anand, these are all Hindu-phobic arguments. And the irony is that we are not a secular nation to begin with, because the state controls Hindu temples and leeches billions of them shamelessly, pays salaries of Maulvis and priests, organizes free pilgrimages, Hajj subsidies. Number 4, first the Congress and now the SP are objecting to the Sengol. This is the same Samajwadi party, by the way, that fired at Ram Bhakt and then admitted so proudly. The same party that banned Hindu prayers at the Gyan Vyapi in total violation of the Places of Worship Act. Number 5, this is very important. Being a Darwinian atheist, I have no skin in the game, Anand, but this much I know. Hinduism has survived 8 millennia because it imbibes the scientific virtues of diversity, empathy, independent thought, and reform. In Hinduism, religion is an offshoot of the way of life, while in Abrahamic ideologies, way of life is an offshoot of religion. It follows that the former is less shackled by rigidity or by rules and diktats and is more mutatable, celebrating diversity of its followers. As always, the source, the fountainhead, dictates the mutatability and eagerness to change. In Hinduism, there are sects that promote and celebrate atheism, Charvaks. There are sects that reject Vedas altogether, Lingayats. How gloriously ironical is that? Rejecting your holy scriptures and yet being proud Hindus. Can this happen in any other religion? Hinduism is an all-accepting, all-questioning idea, and therefore it is entirely appropriate that such a symbol imbibing all qualities of the ancient Hindu civilization is installed in our parliament.
George Kurian.
Well, Anand, good evening to you, to my co-panelists from the show, and to your audience. Sengol in Parliament holds no meaning or importance in today's era we live in. It may have its own significance and way of life or prosperity or transfer of power. Having said that, today India is going through we are governed by the constitution under the federal structure, and we all accept the fact that, it means value for us, and we look forward to it. And having said that, the Sengol in the Parliament, as I said, it holds no value. In place of that, the constitution would be a right one to begin with.
Is already there in Parliament.
I mean, the new Parliament House, and we strongly believe that, we strongly believe there are so many other burning issues and concerns that needs to be addressed at this point in time. Taking up this issue is of not much importance at this point in time. And
so, is that a message to Akhilesh Yadav and RK Chaudhary, George Kurian?
See, as a member of Parliament, we have been elected by the people at large, so it is our importance, it's our duty to respect their issues and take up their issues in the Parliament, and that is important. 80 crore people of this country is going through.
So are you saying that? Let me just please ask you, George. Okay, do you believe that Yatho Dharmas Tatho Jaya should not be there in our Supreme Court? Satyameva Jayate should not be there outside any police headquarter. Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita should not be there outside any of the war calls. All the war calls of all our regiments of the Indian Army and the territorial fighters, etc. All the forces should all be done away with, because they are all offshoots of their own parampara and the history, sir. So should that all be done away with?
Not at all. Anand, you cannot,
So,
mix up
so
two
one
different things.
Sengol as a symbol of justice, rule by justice, rule by law, and in the interest of the
important
righteous,
for the for
and
the government
punishing
at
the
center is to,
vile,
carry out a
upholding
social
the
staff
innocent,
survey,
saving
economic
and
survey.
protecting the innocent, and punishing the vile. That's what this Sengol is a symbol of. It is there right next to the speaker, and it is mindful of and it is in front and serves a reminder to every parliamentarian. But that is an eyesore for you, sir. What's the logic? I don't understand, George Kurenji.
Anand, even the Prime Minister, he has placed it there. After that, he has not bowed down for the to the symbol in the Parliament. So for the Prime Minister also, it holds no value and no meaning. So it's better that they shift it, and Constitution is placed. We all respect it, and we'll be always told we have to do justice to the people at large.
No, but there are 542 MPs in Parliament. Why is it that only the MP of Varanasi is the first one, and he's the only one who's supposed to bow, and that's when the respect for the Sengol will be there? He's placed it, he's bowed, and he's placed it with grand ceremony. The rest of the parliamentarians should also do it. Some of the parliamentarians even forgot to shake hands with the Speaker and the Lok Sabha Secretary General. So should they also be removed?
Well, Anand, as
From
I said,
Parliament, sir. I'm just asking very humbly.
Grave concerns
Can I come in, Anand?
and issues of concern that needs to be addressed for the people of India at large, and which should be the priority. That is what I want to say.
So if that is a priority, sir, then the Sengol must be there. Just like you want to keep the Samvidhan, the Sengol should be kept, should be there, so that it's a constant reminder that we should never do something like the emergency again. We should never do something like
Anand,
the Shabano ordinance, the ordinance that overturned the Shabano judgment again. We should never make
Anand,
such decisions as parliamentarians.
You don't need to be reminded.
That's what I am trying to say, sir.
Anand,
C.R.
I need to come in,
Keshavan.
please.
C.R. Keshavan.
Anand, I just want to say this. Both the
Anand,
Anands raised,
I've been
both the
asking
Anands
for
raised a very
it.
Coming to you, sir.
pertinent point.
Mr. Narayanan, after
Both
this.
the,
Right, take it.
both the Anands raised a
Okay,
beautiful point.
now,
It says
After Mr.
Satyameva
Keshavan, after Mr.
Jayate.
Keshavan, allow him 45 seconds and then I'll come to
Yeah,
you,
I won't take more
Mr.
than
Narayanan.
that.
Yes, sir.
It says Satyameva Jayate Nanritam. Many people know that, don't know that. Satyameva Jayate is, truth wins but not falsehoods. These falsehoods by the India Alliance will be quelled. And I tell you, everybody talks about tryst with destiny speech. Tryst with destiny speech. It was actually completely borrowed from Rendezvous with Destiny by FDR. While these people are talking about tryst with destiny, why can't they appreciate the Sengol, which is our own? It is our culture. It is our parampara. It is our tradition. And I'm not saying it because Rajaji was instrumental. My family might have played a role, I'm very proud, but it is a proud moment for every Indian. And let them not raise a finger at the Prime Minister. These people demeaned it and dishonored it and threw it away as a walking stick. And only a person with such depth and respect of our history and parampara brought it back. And one thing, let me complete. They dismiss it without knowing the history. When it was, he repeated what was done during the transfer of power, Devaram. Devotional hymns of Lord Shiva written 1,300 years back were sung. You think that has no sanctity? Tell me in Mr. American
that is something
sir,
you are asking a question.
Generally, you are asking
yes.
Okay,
Mr. Keshavan, please heed. Mr.
Keshavan, we can talk about that.
No, not just talking about that, Mr. Narayanan. I'm just saying that this is happening when somebody who is a proclaimed Janayudhari Shiv Bhakt is standing and watching. A symbol of Shaivism and Shaivites is being insulted by his own party member, by his own alliance members.
Anand,
that's what I'm saying.
Anand, you called us to talk, and if you just rewind it, you probably have taken major portion of your time. Please, listen to us because you want a different view. We don't want to be the focus of the government or the mouth of the government. Please don't do that. Now, coming back, Keshavan has not answered any of my question in the earlier thing. I did not say Sengol cannot be there. Let's be very clear. I did not say that. Now, Samajwadi MP may have felt that, but I did not say that, number one. Number two, Korean also said there are more important things to talk about. That goes to not only Samajwadi MP, but honestly, you wasting the prime time of India talking about the important things rather than the symbolic thing. Third thing I talked about.
Okay.
Please let me finish.
Okay.
Third thing I talked about. Prime Minister is only doing symbolic thing. He did not practice, unlike Mahatma, what he preaches. Number 4, irrelevantly, when I was talked about when Keshavan brought in about the caste, you talked about the Dalit
card played by the Congress
first
party.
President, Dalit party president.
Dalit card played by the Congress party. Brazenly played. Brazenly played, and it's a brazen casteist game that was being played
let me finish up.
by
when
the
we
Congress
talk
party.
about Dalit,
Sir,
we are talking about oppressed. We are talking about the weakest.
No,
not weak,
no, sir. You are using certain calling cards from caste and community to further your own political gain as symbolism, and that's the caste game, and and then calling yourself, trying to project yourself as holier than thou, and that is something which should not happen. Then say that we are playing the game, so we are not going to back away from it. You can't say you can't try and lecture the other person when you are already practicing. Well, I have to wind up. I have to. No, sir. What is important, sir, is what is important, sir, is from the Shaivite tradition on the Sengol is the bull. In the Vaishnavite tradition, it is Garuda. Both stand for Niti and Dharma. What I am trying to tell you is, sir, when a symbol like that, which is a reflection of our culture, is kept there for a just rule of law, and they say we should do away with our parampara, then it's a problem. Have to wind up. We're going to take a very short break. I thank all our panelists. Dr. Ranganathan will stay on with us when we get to the other story. But before that, we should have Professor Gurumurthy joining us. Editor Tughlaq. He's just getting mic'd up. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
Leading to the 2-3 months before the tournament. And yeah, I'm really proud of the way everybody stepped up and everybody contributed in different moments. And it's a special achievement to reach the Super 8 when you're playing in the tournament for the first time. You've trained with limited resources. And yeah, it's a good landmark for sort of growth of the sport in the country now. So I sort of gave up the sport at professional level in 2015 when I decided to move to the US for my master's degree. Yeah, I never expected to sort of play cricket, let alone play professionally. When I came to college, saw a few players, like few students playing for fun, joined them in college. Then realized that they had formed a college cricket club, and they used to play college tournaments. So just started playing for fun, like alongside my studies there. Got a job in San Francisco, discovered club cricket on the weekends. There it was mostly social cricket. Started playing that for fun every weekend with my job. I didn't used to train or practice or anything like that, just used to play on the weekends. In those club teams, I had a few teammates who were part of the national team at that time. So that's when I discovered about the existence of the youth.
Back on, and let's go straight across to Editor Tughlaq, Professor S. Gurumurthy joining us from Chennai. Vanakkam, Namaskaram. Thank you very much for joining us. Your first reaction to what the Samajwadi Party MP, Mr. RK Chaudhary, had to say about the Sengol in Parliament.
See, I think their understanding of democracy is very limited and very distorted and even perverse. if this is the logic that anything that prevailed before the constitution is something which has to be ignored and kept aside, then what about Satyameva Jayate?
Yeah.
What about Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha?
Yeah.
What about the other invocations, Vedic and Upanishadic invocations which we use, not only in the Supreme Court, but also in various government initiatives, universities. This is connecting ourselves to the past, to take inspiration from the past. So, Sengol is something which connects us to the timeless past of India. And it was not invented by this government or by the Prime Minister. This was a symbolic ritual adopted by the Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, and its historicity is proven. So, I think people like Chaudhary are neither aware of all this nor aware of what even the idea of constitutionalism means in India.
For some, it is just a walking stick, Professor Gurumurthy. The DMK also believes it's a symbol of monarchy.
Actually, I would take it as only one member's opinion, and it should not be given more prominence or importance than that. That even if a Prime Minister had 414 members in India, which Rajiv Gandhi had, he was not a dictator. Like Mrs. Gandhi, who had more than 370, or Jawaharlal Nehru, nobody was a dictator. They commanded a higher majority. The constitution in India does not in any way recognize or permit autocracy except for 21 months in this country. That was during the emergency.
Correct.
And it was not only that a complete autocratic rule was established without Sengol. There was no Sengol at that time. And autocratic rule was established. 42nd Amendment was passed on 27th December 1976, by which 42nd Amendment was made part of the Constitution by the President of India. You know what does that mean? That is dictatorship, that is autocracy, and no Sengol is needed for that. What is needed is an autocratic ruler who seizes power, and this could happen without Sengol.
But the allegation is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying to seize power, assume total control, and that's why the opposition is doing Samvidhan, Constitution, upholding, etc. What do you think is their strategy here?
There is no strategy. There is no strategy. They are not able to reply to these facts. You have to reply to the facts. There is no use. Let us assume Modi is in minority. Defeat him. Bring a no confidence motion. Saying that Modi is in minority doesn't answer the question whether you instituted dictatorship or not in 1976 and whether the country escaped the dictatorship because you were defeated. If you had not been defeated, there would be dictatorship in India. You have to answer that. This is a plain question, which the President has posed, the government has posed. And the Congress has to squarely stand up and say, yes, if we had not been defeated, there would have been dictatorship. But now that the people have rejected us then and brought back the constitution, we respect the new constitution. Let them say so honestly.
Your thoughts on Rahul Gandhi as leader opposition?
Obviously, he has to speak. What he will, because he may not even have read 42nd Amendment. Because he was, when the 42nd Amendment was moved, he was a 6-year-old baby. And I don't think he is one of the persons who has read even the post-independence Indian history because that requires reading, that requires writing. And a man who travelled in 4 years 247 times out of India, I don't think he would have had the time to read and understand. It's a pity that we have positions occupied by people who do not have the responsibility to understand what that position entails them to.
So you have your doubts about his success as leader opposition?
You see, if he could carry the opposition together, it would have been reflected in the speaker's election. They could not propose one person as the nominee first, and they were only bargaining that if you give me this, I will do this. And in that also there was no unity. The TMC was proposing its own nominee. So my feeling is that this is an accidental crowd, an anti-Modi crowd. It can never be called an opposition which has a purpose. So I don't think it is going to work. Actually, you are reviving the pre-2014 situation, and that is going to only strengthen the government, because on every matter you are going to oppose. You could have waited. The Sengol issue was there. Sengol was installed last year. Afterwards, parliament sessions took place. And nobody spoke about it. Even today, the Congress has not opened its mouth because Sengol was installed. Sengol was first accepted and made part of the transfer of power by Jawaharlal Nehru. And they can't deny the historicity of it because the government has produced such powerful evidence. They can't say it did not happen. And they have to explain why they called it a walking stick, because they can't enter into the debate at all.
True. Professor Gurumurthy, always a pleasure speaking with you. Paucity of time this time around. Look forward to a longer chat very, very soon. Thank you very, very much. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, another of the dirty tricks department within the US deep state, the USIRF 2024 report on Bharat. Stay with us.
फ्लाईओवर पे चढ़ा
We had prepared well. Leading into the tournament, we had 2 series. We played a 5-match T20 series against Canada and we won 5-0. And we played a T20 series against Bangladesh and we won 2-1. I think that gave us a lot of confidence that the team combination was forming well and everybody was performing in their roles. I think it's made a big difference. You can see local media have caught on to it. A lot of local people had shown up for the games and they are now very interested in understanding about what the game is. It has created a big buzz actually. And it's on us now to continue that into a major league and into the bilateral series that we play from now on. Hopefully, better teams will be ready to play us in bilateral series so that we get more exposure and we can try out playing in different conditions. From my side, I don't want to...
Back on with news just coming through. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, USIRF, has an organization, has published its 2024 report on religious freedom across nations. And Bharat has very strongly criticized and condemned this. This has been done in the past. It's again raised concerns over religious freedom, citing alleged rise in quote-unquote hate speech, demolitions and anti-conversion laws. A detailed section of the report also mentioned alleged targeted attacks against religious minorities in Bharat. but experts have opined how the Yusuf report is deeply skewed and is a deliberate attempt to malign our nation year after year with a particular specific agenda and its intent being corrupted by certain elements who are inimical to Bharat in the first place. Now, CNN News 18 news is coming through. CNN News 18 has exclusively accessed the government's response, our government's response. Top government sources have said they have completely rejected this report. Top government sources via Group Editor Security Manoj Kumar Gupta telling us that recent election results are a clear example of religious freedom. Amritpal Singh, Engineer Rashid, their wins reflect democratic rights to anybody and everybody who's contesting an election. There has been no curb or control on either of these people and many others contesting elections, and they have won. Report is superficial based on social media narrative. No work has been done on the ground. The government is committed to acting against hate mongers and terror perpetrators. That agencies are watching out for those wanting to spread terror. Government's efforts have also brought back several minority youth into the mainstream, and especially the state governments have targeted and busted many ISIS modules while also helping young minds which had been corrupted go back to their parents and enter the mainstream again. Expected such a report during elections too. Their agenda is well known. The MEA earlier had also called out this US body for biased and political agenda. Propaganda against India masquerading as part of an annual report is what the reaction is. Let's go across to Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Sushant Sareen and Atikur Rahman joining us. Namaste and Jai Hind to everybody.
Go ahead.
Dr. Ranganathan, your thoughts on this?
Anand, Secretary Blinken. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm saying Secretary Blinken is not the brightest of bulbs at the best of times. So I don't blame him for his rank lies and being taken in by the Islamist and leftist propaganda as far as his statement on religious minority discrimination is concerned. But his lies must be countered on 5 levels. Very briefly, number 1, Anand, remember when Obama came visiting in 2015 and told us off snootily about persecution of religious minorities? This, when during the Obama years there were 270,000 violent hate crimes in US in 2012 alone. But we remained silent as he waxed eloquent about human rights and Christians under attack, even though that whole narrative turned out to be totally fake. All church attacks were thefts and arson and had nothing to do with communal hate. So we should have demanded an apology, but we let it go. And this only emboldened these liars. Number 2, since 2017, there have been more than 210 documented instances of hate crime attacks, lynchings, attempted lynchings by Muslim mobs on Hindus, Dalits and non-Dalits, force feeding beef, forced conversions, breaking temples, forced chanting of Islamic slogans, persecution of Hindu school children for sporting Hindu religious symbols, lynching. The list is endless. Let me turn the situation around. What, Anand? If media only reports hate crime attacks on Hindus by Muslim mobs, what will be your impression about India then? Yes, that only Hindus are being targeted by Muslims here, while the truth is that hate crime attacks are not the exclusive preserve of any one particular religious community. Selectivity seeds propaganda. Number 3, on this trope of only BJP mainstreaming violence, they never outrage on the BSP selecting as a candidate a man who offered 51 crores to anyone who beheaded Charlie Hebdo journalists, or when Mehbooba Mufti condoles the death of Wani the terrorist, or when the ex-Vice President Ansari presents an award to PFI terror chief, or when sitting MLA Tahir Hussain leads a mob and says, teach a lesson to these kafirs. Then it is not mainstreaming of violence. Number 4, look, it is high time we talked of real discrimination. Is it discrimination against Muslims or against Hindus? When Muslims are shouting from mosques, they will behead Nupur and all those who oppose Azan and Hijab? Or when Kashmiri Hindus are forced to be refugees in their own land? Or when Hindu temples are exclusively controlled by the state? When Places of Worship Act prevents Hindus from reclaiming their temples? Or when tens of thousands of Hindus are being forcefully and illegally converted? Or when only Hindu-run schools are being discriminated against through RTE? Finally, when people accuse Modi of being anti-minority, I laugh. You know why? Because minorities before 2014, 20,000 skill trained, 5% with government jobs, 3 crore scholarships, 70% girls school dropout rate. And minorities after 2014, 2 million skill trained, 10% with government jobs, 5 crore scholarships, free UPSC coaching, 30% school dropout rate, while our Muslim population is 14.2%, as many as 31.3% of homes under Awas Yojana, 33% of funds under Kisan Samman Nidhi, 36% beneficiary under Mudra Yojana have been Muslims. No other Prime Minister has comparatively done more for Muslims than Modi. So Secretary Blinken, remove those blinkers forced down on your head by Islamists and chauthi failed leftists and see the truth.
The fact is that who are these people who are contributing to these reports and why are they continuing to do it? And why are they the enablers and they are the ones? And if you look at the report, interestingly, Atikur Rahman, FCRA is a problem for them. Funding, foreign funding being clamped down upon is an issue that's been cited. They have picked out 1, 2, 3 issues and then tried to highlight it. Your thoughts?
Fine, Anand. The least I would do is rely upon any report which comes from a foreign country, and you name it that they are partisan or they are having some sort of phobias or something. So I wouldn't be relying on that. I have my own figures which might add to it or subtract to it. If this report is denied by you, then I would ask that the newly formed Uttarakhand UCC, is it acceptable to you when it says that couples going and marrying under the Special Marriages Act should seek the permission of the official sitting over there, should seek the permission of their parents? Is this not, adding to this particular report which you are quoting right now? Why is that every time the BJP spokesperson, they are against the Special Marriages Act if the couples are Hindus and Muslims, if the couples have their own freedom of choice over there? No, you won't be looking into these figures, but you have your own anecdotal figures. Just now it has been mentioned that Muslims were the far most, getting out of the Parliamentary yojanas and this and this. I agree. But is it not true that these yojanas were having an addition to it? That after every house out of the Parliamentary Awas Yojana, that evening the Muslims were demonized on your channels, on the Godi media channel. So is that free for all when the Muslims are at stake, that you give them houses, you give them toilets, you give them all the benefits, but a free pouch comes in that is demonize the community in the name of whatever you people like. So I do not rely on such reports. I have my own reports wherein Muslims are marginalized in India under the Modi regime.
Did your reports, Atikur Rahman, also note Sartan se juda calls by Hindus?
Yes.
Did it also note those people who stood there at Shaheen Bagh saying Kagaz nahi dikhayenge? They were also Hindus. They were from anywhere. Did you also note those leaders who came out and said we are already above 75% population, so we should be a separate state, carve out a separate state out of Kerala? Did your report also note those people who across 40 districts of Bihar and Jharkhand today have said that Friday should be declared a holiday because hamari sankhya bhari hai in government schools, and they have self-proclaimed non-Urdu designated schools as Urdu schools on their own, and they said koi kuch nahi kar sakta. And then you are saying that minorities are in danger in Bharat, and you are believing, you are ready to believe these, you are ready to believe these reports. That's fantastic. And 40% turnout of elections and people coming out in Jammu and Kashmir has escaped the attention of everybody else. How is that happening if minorities are in danger? That's a place where the minorities in our country are actually in majority and they're coming out and voting in such large numbers for the first time in 75 years. That should actually make us a place where minorities are thriving, sir. Anyway, Sushant Sari.
Anand, I think my friend Anand Ranganathan is completely wrong because he cannot understand a simple distinction being made by the Americans. That there are something called secular hate crimes. Those are the crimes which are committed against Hindus. And then there are something called communal hate crimes, which is what is there in this particular report. Now, Mr. Atikur Rahman is completely off the mark. If I don't agree with the Special Marriages Act and what has been done in the Uttarakhand UCC, but the point is that it's not directed against any one community. Yeah. It's the same thing which will happen if a Hindu boy marries a Muslim girl or a Muslim boy marries a Hindu girl. They will have to go to the same officer, and I completely oppose that. But that is not the point. The point is the law is in that sense very secular. Number three, the Americans talk about a systemic discrimination against Muslims. Look, One, if the Muslims have lost their veto over deciding who will form the government, then that is not a systemic discrimination. That is simply how electoral politics works. And if you have pushed yourself into a corner, just too bad. But otherwise, please give me an instance of a systemic discrimination. Unless, of course, you are silly enough to talk about the Citizenship Act, which actually I completely agree with, and I oppose this government for keeping it limited on a time frame, and I also criticize this government for having delayed it for 4 years and having denied persecuted Hindus and other religious minorities from our neighborhood citizenship rights. But it is also important to understand, let's ask the physician to heal thyself. There are these Khalistani or Khali Islamis who are carrying out their own kind of jihad against Hindus in the United States and carrying out hate speech, and these are working under the protection of US agencies. That hate speech comes under what category? Or is that kosher hate speech? Is that perfectly valid, that kind of hate speech, right? So these guys, and then on this whole business, partly we don't understand the kind of hold that these evangelicals hold in America. Their business model is to harvest souls. The more number of people they convert, the more their revenues. And they are pumping in money. Much of the conversion rackets are not by the traditional Christian sects. The Catholics and others don't do this. It's these evangelicals, most of whom come from America. And that is why there is domestic pressure on them, which they're then trying to transfer out here. But last, I think the problem also lies with India, because we seek validation from these guys. And I don't know why we seek validation from these kind of people. We should ask them to go and take a hike. And frankly speaking, I think the Americans are in a self-destruct mode, because they are managing to, irritate the hell out of everybody. Their enemies, of course, they irritate the hell out of, but even their potential friends and their allies, they have managed to alienate. So if they want to carry on this way, because look, everybody's up to their neck on American sermonizing. We don't need Americans to sermonize to us. We don't need their hectoring, and we don't need their pontification, because as Anand very correctly, he was wrong on the hate crimes thing, on distinction between secular and communal hate crimes. But he's right on the fact that, look at the way the kind of system which the Americans have. Look at the kind of killings which happen out there. Look at the kind of racism which is there in the US. How dare they, point a finger at people like us?
No, so that is not fair, Sushant Sareen. See, they have the right, just like certain voices in our country who also echo in Parliament, that they can do whatever they want, but the other person should not be allowed to do it. And they will continue to pass on, and the classical Goebbels phenomenon, that they will blame it on the others all the time. That's what will happen. Anand Ranganathan ji, final 20 seconds. Yes, I have to wind up.
As the old rogue Kissinger said, to be an enemy of America may be dangerous, but to be a friend of America would be fatal. But, to come back to Mr. Atikur Rahman, he is waxing eloquent about some marriage laws that have been passed, while he himself opposes the UCC. He is against adherence to the Child Marriage Act. These are the people who are waxing eloquent about justice for minorities.
The Law Commission does not recommend UCC right now.
Or are you against UCC?
Sir, I'll tell you what, we have to actually go ahead and catch those people, those so-called intellectuals who are writing this report. Because in a country where the minorities have their personal acts secured, and the majority has its own religious acts codified, that country cannot be dangerous for minorities. It's actually dangerous for the majority community here. Okay, we've got to wind up on that note. Way over time. We'll take this forward soon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Stay with us. Brass Tacks follows.
Co-powered by.
But yeah, it is what it is. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. My hand is
carry on.
Yeah, for me, it's just every time I enter the field, I play any match, I just want to give my best and not think about any fruits of my actions. They will happen. If I deserve, I will get. If not, whatever, I'll keep working hard. I'll keep training and enjoying the game.
Welcome back. Now, the United States team, a debutant at the T20 World Cup 2024, the one who's getting headlined is Saurabh Netravalkar. The Maharashtra-born cricketer knocked off both Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli in the USA versus India game. But that's not his lone occupation. Netravalkar is one of the principal software engineers at Oracle, one of the largest software companies in the world. So we got down to understanding ये आदमी है कौन, क्या करता है, देखिए.
Saurabh, first of all, hard luck for the Super 8, but the entire World Cup, you guys have been sensational. So I just want to know, how would you summarize the experience?
This is CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
Very good evening. You're watching Brass Tacks with me, Akanksha Swaroop, and we are coming live to you from the CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Prime Time Studio. Now, today marked President Draupadi Murmu's first address to both houses after the new government formation, and a reference to Indira Gandhi imposed emergency, that too in her first address, has exposed the deep fault lines, those between the Modi government and the Congress party, and one that will likely make Parliament proceedings stormy in the coming days. The President's condemnation of the emergency comes after Lok Sabha Speaker